I'm back.
What's up, family? So apparently, Lil Durk, Smirk Yo, finally got a win in court. Prosecutors finally the judge finally ruled against the prosecutors today. So giving Lil Durk his first win. Let's go ahead and break this down.
I'm back at my desk. I've got all the updates for you. I've got my trusty, very fancy Tiffany notebook with all of the notes in it from the trial. I cannot believe it. So before we get to that, I'm going to give you an update and a bit of a refresh about what was being discussed in court today, why it was being discussed, and then I'm going to tell you what went down. And it was, I'm not going to lie, it was a bloodbath for the prosecution. They got absolutely smoked. It is crazy. Before we get any further, I just want to make it very clear. Everybody's saying, oh, Ross, you're changing your tune. You're always saying Durk's cooked. This doesn't uncook Durk. All this means is that he is currently having a W. If they separate the two murder charges into separate trials, that will help him massively. That will help him massively. It's still going to be tough. They're still allegedly got snitches that are on both cases that are telling on Durk, and it is very bad. But it does mean that he is going to avoid any prejudice of the jury, knowing that he's got bodies on bodies on bodies. It's going to be one body at a time, LA body, Chicago body, separate trials, less racketeering, gang conspiracy,
Yeah.
and
Which is actually gonna help him out because now they could focus on they could try to beat East case. If you remember in that Fulio case that we just seen, the problem with them boys was they all got charged together. You know what I'm saying? On that move, and that girl got charged separately. She separated herself from the case. So that's why she got 15 years. So they're trying to break this case down. You know what I'm saying? And give Durk, which is smart as hell. You know what I'm saying? They took the dub today. Not saying he out the woods, but they took the dub.
Ruled on it yet. I expect the judge is going to make the ruling later today that they are going to allow the charges to be severed. And, you know, look, it doesn't uncook Durk, but it also gives him a really great step forward so that he can then have some W's and some improvements. So just to give you a little bit of backstory, okay, so Durk's legal team basically filed paperwork. I'm not going to sit here and read you all the paperwork like I have done in the past, okay, but basically, they asked the court either separate the newly added charges from the case or dismiss them entirely. They argued the government caused the delays. And some of the stuff in this filing was a little bit ridiculous. You know, they said that basically, when the government clapped back, they kind of said, look, we don't want Durk to basically be able to cherry pick what charges he fancies facing. Well, that's not what the judge was trying to hear today. The judge was saying it's not about Durk cherry picking what charges he wants to face. It's really about not adding a bunch of stuff last minute that is going to be prejudicial and make the jury have shitloads more to get.
Facts. That's really what it come down to. They trying to add shit last minute, and that was gonna jam Lil Durk up. They on his ass. Don't tweak now. They are on his ass. The feds is trying to jam him up in every way, shape, or form. They do not want him leaving at all. But the judge is like, hey, can't do it like that. So hey,
Through rather than two separate juries. So this is the actual paperwork. This was Durk's response basically to, you know, the previous edition of charges. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but basically they're saying that they've endangered his speedy trial rights. They've added all these new charges last minute. You know, they should have been available a long time ago. They're doing all of this right up close to his August 20th trial date. And basically they're saying that, you know, this has endangered the trial date. They're not allowing him his opportunity to get a speedy trial. They're adding all this stuff really close to the deadlines. But when the prosecution clapped back in this paperwork, they basically said we were trying to correct any factual assertions, basically correcting things that they said that Durk's reply was not giving a full explanation, okay? And this is the same stuff that ended up getting brought up in court. They basically said, you know, they got co-conspirator 4's iCloud on June the 8th. You know, they got some more information. They got more details. People were examining the iCloud, basically saying that we got a bunch of new information and we had to add these new charges. We did them as soon as we could, and as I covered in a previous video, they basically gave the information as quickly as they could. And it's kind of like, you know, the prosecution are now saying, no, we got to let this go ahead, we got to have these new charges. So let me get into what was discussed in the courtroom. So look, I'm just going to break this down for you guys. I'm not going to react to anything else in this video. I'm just going to read, not read from my notebook, but I'm going to kind of like go from my notes and basically just give you the backstory of everything that was covered today in great detail. I was writing as fast as my fingers possibly could. It was crazy. So I'm going to tell you the whole story of everything that went down. So I pulled up to the federal courthouse. Now, this courthouse was looking like it had $1 billion budget. I'm not saying that the courthouse for the state or for the city of Los Angeles is run down, but having attended the David trial, that courthouse ain't as ballin' as this courthouse. This courthouse was looking like a brand new built airport or an embassy. It reminded me of the American Embassy in London, the new American Embassy in Battersea in London. It just looks absolutely magnificent, beautiful glass, beautiful structure. you could tell even just walking into the building, the Fed's got that real big budget money. Unlike the state of California, unlike the city, that courthouse is cool. It's nice, but it's like this courthouse was like something futuristic and high tech. I went there really early because I thought tons of people would be there. There was no one there, not a soul. I was the first person in there. I was in there for an hour by myself, just sending voice notes and just completely empty. I was thinking, did I get the date wrong? Am I in the wrong place? But I was in the right place. This is exactly where it was going down. So I waited around. I spoke to a few other journalists that eventually came through after I'd been sat there for quite a long time. And it was very, very interesting. So I was there waiting for people to come. I start seeing people turn up, a few people I recognized. And then Brian Steele and Drew Findling pulled up. And I got to say, they were looking like celebrities. It was big aura. Brian Steele's aura is off the charts. I can't lie to you. When Brian Steele popped out, it was like he genuinely had the most... I don't know if I've ever seen... He got more aura than all the rappers. This guy was looking like money. He was looking...
Yeah, because he getting everybody out of jail and he tapping everybody's pockets at the same time. The fuck around with, yeah, he got hella aura.
Confident. He was looking successful. He was well kept. Drew Findling, on the other hand, Drew Findling got aura, but he kind of a little bit disheveled on the mad genius kind of vibe. Brian Steele looking more clean cut, like absolutely sharp as hell. Absolutely sharp as hell. And when they walked in, okay, it was just like, it was like a movie. Brian Steele, Drew Findling walk in with their whole crew. It was like everyone turned and looked at them. It was straight aura farming, to be honest with you. They were looking absolutely incredible. They were looking sharp. And you could really see why, these are such a crack team, such a dream team of lawyers, okay? And I'll be honest with you guys, having actually seen this sort of in real life, seeing how this plays out, I've got a lot more confidence in Durk now. This is really a good team. Now, they're definitely going to bleed him dry. I don't think that aura comes cheap, and I'm sure it's costing an absolute fortune, but they turned up and did the business. It was insane. So from there, okay, I had a little conversation even with Lil Durk. He's got like a publicist kind of person that was there. She was actually very nice to me, in spite of the negative coverage that I've done on Durk. And, she was just kind of like, you're doing what you got to do. You got to talk about this. I'm glad you're here talking about this. I don't know if she knew that it was going to go well that day, but it was almost like, let's see what you got to say about this one. And it was very, very impressive, honestly. It was a really, really great show. So, not show, but like the show that his defense put on was brilliant. And the judge really was... I'll talk about the judge in a minute, okay? So we walk into the courtroom. It finally opens up, all right? We went and sat down, and Durk was talking with Drew. He was talking with Brian. Durk had a huge grin on his face. I've talked before about David. He looks a bit down sometimes. He looks a little bit up other times.
I ain't gonna lie, boy. They be knowing, boy. And I hope Durk ain't snitching, but Durk, I ain't gonna lie, man. I want him to come home, but he gotta stop that bullshit, man. You can't. If he come home and beat this shit and go back to jail for some shit, I'm done. I ain't gonna lie. I'm done. Durk gotta stay out of jail. If he can beat this shit, it will be a miracle. Nobody beat the feds. There's only so many people that could beat the feds. If he beat the feds...
I'm kind of smiling. Durk was straight cheesing, smiling, Durk was the absolute epitome of confidence in that courtroom. He was smiling, he was cheesing, he was laughing. He did not look like a man that was facing two bodies. That's just my honest take. People saying I'm biased. Durk looked so confident, I was stunned. I was stunned at the confidence that Durk was showing. He looked calm. He looked happy. He was really cheesing. I don't know if he got like a diamond in one of his teeth or something, but like, I swear there was a twinkle. Pause. As there's like a like Durk was just looking confident like money. So Durk, Brian, and Drew all together laughing. You look at them thinking, these guys actually, like, these guys is trial ready. Like, these are serious. Seeing that in person definitely changed my perspective a little bit. I'll just be completely honest, okay? I'm not somebody that, I've got an anti-Durk vendetta. I've seen it with my own eyes, and he's looking way more confident than I was expecting. Converse that with David. David looking burnt out. He putting on a little bit of a show. Durk looked genuinely like he knew what he was doing. Durk looked so confident. I could not believe it, okay? They were laughing and joking loads before the trial. Durk and Brian Steele and Drew...
I think Durk has that more confidence look because Durk has kind of been here before. He's been in court before. He's been dealing with lawyers before. He's been dealing with judges before. He got homies that was dealing with this shit. He's firsthand seen this shit kind of his whole life. So I think it's a little different for Durk. I think he got more confidence in what his lawyers are saying on top of taking that win. When you in that situation, bro, every little win help, bro. Any little win, any little good news you get, hell yeah, you're going to smile. Otherwise, I'm facing life. So if I got to stay for 5 years or whatever the case may be and try to fight this bitch, he's been sitting for like 2 years now. So if he got to sit for another 3 years, so be it if he come home. I'm with him on that. So I think that's why Durk is smiling. Like, he just took a win. Hell yeah, he happy as hell. Boy, you facing He facing the rest of his life in federal prison. He finally just took a win that nobody expected him to have. Hell yeah, he confident. Hell yeah, he happy. I would be too. Shit,
And
free
Lay
smart.
really cracking up, like they laughing. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but they having a little conference. They whispering. Dirk really smiling. Looking, I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe the confidence that Dirk had. I could not believe it. I've never seen Dirk perform. All right, hopefully, you know. I mean, I don't even know, but like to see Dirk in the flesh in person after all of the content that I've done over him about him over the years was surreal, to be completely honest with you. So everyone was in awe of Brian Steele. He had straight aura when he came in. Everyone was excited. Even in the courtroom, it almost felt like even the prosecution. It's like Brian Steele walks in. It's like, oh, hot damn. It was like the oxygen just got sucked out of the room. Like, Brian Steele's here. It was actually crazy. This man has, I'm telling you, Brian Steele has aura on another level. It was insane. So I did notice, okay, Dirk's co-defendants, particularly Dee, you know, they were all kind of sat behind him. Him and his other co-defendants were all there. So just to like refresh your memory, right? The people that I saw that were there, we basically saw, you know, still included in this stage, DeAndre, Dontel Wilson, David Bryan Lindsay, and Asa Houston. So they were all there sat behind Dirk. Now, obviously, there were 5 people on this case originally, and some of those people didn't see no Vonnie, all right? Saw Dee, David Bryan Lindsay. So Dee, Brown Eye.
Vonnie really did that shit. I swear to God. Didn't see no Vonnie. He bogus as hell.
Boogie. Didn't see no Flacker. Didn't see no Dee. Okay, I didn't see them. Didn't see it. Didn't see them. They weren't there. All right, but that's who was there, and I'll keep it real with you. I'll be honest with you. Okay, no, I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, let me keep talking about Dirk, because Dirk was looking sharp. Not only was he looking happy, he was looking comfortable. He had very kind of short, cropped hair. He looked sharp. He looked fresh. He honestly looked like music video shoot ready. He didn't look disheveled like David has some of these days. He looked really sharp. He looked really well put together. You know, he had a clean haircut. And him and Drew and Brian kind of had like a little huddle right before things started. You know, they were sort of like going over their strategy, confident as hell. Now, the other co-defendants, I'm not going to lie, I don't know. I don't think Dirk saw me. I was kind of obviously looking at Dirk most of the time, trying to see what was going on. He had bigger fish to fry. Okay, he had bigger fish to fry. He was kind of, you know, just in the zone, I would say. However, okay, I'm pretty sure Dee locked eyes with me. And he looked like he's seen a guy. He looked so surprised. And then he sort of nodded to one of, like, a couple of the other co-defendants, almost like, hey, look who's in the courtroom. That was kind of surreal. That was crazy. I was just like, what the hell? Dirk was sat in front of them, so it wasn't like they could be like, yo, Dirk, look who's here. But it was like he was sat in front of them, kind of closer. Imagine this is the courtroom, and like all of the audience are here at the bottom near the front doors. It's like Dirk and his team are sort of on one side near the center, and then the co-defendants was kind of behind Dirk here. So they had a better view of like who else was in the back of the courtroom, and Dirk was a lot more in the middle. The prosecutors and the defense were facing each other in a desk in the middle, and then the judge right at the top. That's kind of how it was arranged. But yeah, Dee see me and was just like what? He was taken aback. I'm not gonna lie, and he was kind of like, hey, look. To the other two, it was just like, hey, look who here. That was crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. But anyway, okay. Basically, Drew. Okay, let me just back up and tell you what was going on. I would say there was definitely a show of confidence, kind of Dirk being confident, laughing, smiling, and being happy. Meanwhile, the prosecutors looked very, very serious. Now, little did I know when I wrote the note saying that they looked serious, little did I know they were about to get chewed out. They were about to get chewed up and spat out. Okay, so the prosecutors looked very serious. Dirk and his team looked very confident, and that is how the courtroom played out. The prosecutors were on the back ropes the whole time, and Dirk's team were very confident. They didn't even need to say much. The judge was kind of, I don't want to say the judge was on their side, because I think he was impartial, but I do feel like the judge really was just kind of like calling out the bullshit of the prosecutors, and the judge did give a little bit of backlash to Dirk's team, but they handled it much better. Now, as this is going on, just as things are about to start, more and more people are coming in. So Dirk's wife, India, came in, okay? She hugged Brian Steele. They had like a very...
And for everybody who said India ain't showing up to court, India, man, that's it. That's that man wife, man. Leave that man wife out y'all mouth, man. Y'all be tweaking with that shit. Tweaking on this woman and shit, man. Her husband locked up right now. Y'all be on her ass for no reason.
Sweet embrace. And Dirk looked so happy to see his wife. Dirk was kind of really staring at India quite a lot.
Hell yeah.
It looked like she actually gave him a lot of energy. Very kind of nurturing vibe. She gave him a lot of strength. It felt like she walked in the courtroom and charged him up even more. Like he was looking in his element, to be honest with you. It was very interesting.
Oh God.
So
I ain't gonna lie, that's a good feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't risk a lot for that girl. So for her to come in there and sit next to him and or not sit next to him, but he could see her and be like, man, she still support me, she still got me. A lot of guys don't got that. Now mind you, this is Lil Durk. So, it would be stupid on her end to bounce right now. But still, to have that, man, hell yeah, he gonna be smiling and energetic. Boy, my wife and here, we just took a dub. Like that's a good moment.
Basically, my handwriting's terrible here. What did that say? Dirt kind of. Wait. Okay, so like when things kicked off, basically, okay, what ended up happening is we had to rise for the judge. Now, I think I've mentioned it before, and I actually talked about this on No Jumper yesterday. If you saw my appearance over there, I was kind of taken aback that in these state trials and like the David trial, you don't have to rise for the judge. It seems less formal, definitely less formal than English court, but in this one, you had to stand, you had to rise for the judge, you had to do, it wasn't the full Pledge of Allegiance, but it was like, there was like almost a little thing you had to say, and everyone had to look at the flag. It was way more formal, way more serious. So this is just random. I hope nobody takes any disrespect. I swear the judge looked like a dead ringer for Louis C.K. If you watch comedians, Louis C.K., the judge was definitely not the type of personality of Louis C.K., but I swear when he walked out, I was damn near like, what the fuck's Louis C.K.? The dude looked just like Louis C.K. I'm not trying to hold you. Like, it was so surreal. But basically, like, Durk had 3 lawyers, okay? All of the co-defendants that were sat behind him, each of them had their own respective individual lawyer. So it was a very big team. And then there were basically just like 3 prosecutors. So it was a big, it was a lot of people in the room, a lot of people at the bench and at the table and things like that. So this was all a hearing for the paperwork that I just showed you at the start of this. It was a motion to sever the Vicar counts, which is the murder of Stefan Mack under the gang conspiracy that happened in Chicago, to separate that from the Lil Pab murder. Now, what is very, very interesting is pretty much from the get-go, the judge was on the prosecutor's ass. The judge was so to the point. I would say the judge, not to put down the judge on the David trial, but the judge in the Durk case was like so professional, so on point, didn't take any bullshit, got straight to it, was just saying what he felt. This is what it is. This is what it's like. So the judge basically came out, said, I've looked at both petitions, all right, and they basically said he basically said, I'm not going to say it in the legalese because I couldn't quite write down everything he said, but he basically said the law of speedy trial and the Speedy Trial Act, it doesn't dictate his decision. He said it's guidance, but it's up to him. He said he's the judge. What he says goes. That is something he can take into consideration. But the Speedy Trial Act and what Durk's trying to say, that's not going to influence his decision. Now, when he said that, I was thinking, oh, shit, Durk's about to have a rough day in court. But then suddenly, everything turned around. He said, if I sever and give a date on both of the different trials, okay, it was kind of weird. He said if I severed and gave a date on both of the different trials, it wouldn't make sense. So the judge basically said it's silly for Durk and his team to ask for the whole indictment to be dropped on the basis that they've added all this stuff in at last minute. So at the start, it sounded like the judge was kind of cooking Durk a little bit and basically saying, look, previously you wanted to sever the defendants, but now you're asking to sever the charges. And he's basically saying, look, a lot of the stuff that didn't fly before, it is different now. He basically said it is different. Like, these new charges that have been added, they've been added last minute. It's a Vicar charge. It's a murder. It's basically this big overarching RICO conspiracy. And he said, look, you're asking to sever charges now. You previously asked to sever defendants' cases from each other. And he said, I didn't grant that. He seemed to infer like that's not on the table no more. Separating you guys ain't even on the table. But he basically said now you're asking for counts to be severed, and he said that he's taken that seriously. So the judge basically said that the government's he basically said that like the severance motion is all under his discretion. It sounded a little bit like he was even suggesting that maybe he felt that like the prosecutors were taking liberties a little bit and being a bit presumptuous, acting like they laying down the law. And he basically is like, it's under my discretion. Doesn't matter what the Speedy Trial Act says. Doesn't matter what you guys point out and say you can't pick and choose. As I said in the previous video, a buffet of charges. He said it is up to him, and he's the one weighing up the factors for justice. And he basically.
Yeah, so he basically just saying every judge does this. He basically just letting them know, hey, if I do this, it's because I decided to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like he just laying down the law. He letting them know like you know what I'm saying, y'all not getting separated from this case one by one. We ain't finna do that. But I will look at it from this point of view. You know what I'm saying? He will basically take each. He's not gonna put all the murders in one case. He's gonna give Durk a chance to present his case for each murder for hire, and which is crazy that we even this far in, and you Lil Durk. But since we here, he gonna give Lil Durk the chance to break this case down. So Durk got a chance to come home. The way bro talking about Lil Durk lawyers and shit, if they really got that aura, and I know Lil Durk lawyers, somebody said in the comments that he got big meat off or some shit, something like that, or something, or something like that. So it's just like his lawyer putting in that work. Now obviously Lil Durk paying a pretty penny, but that's nothing he can't make right back. So shit, this is real shit.
Saying what's the prejudice? You need to think about what's the prejudice, and that's what's going to make a difference in this. And what was really interesting, he said, trying 2 cases instead of 1. What's the problem with that? He called out, this is when it really started to turn around in Durk's favor. He called out the prosecutors, and he basically said to them, you guys are saying it's going to be so harsh for the jury to have a severed trial, and we're going to have 2 whole juries impaneled, and we're going to waste all this time and court resources. And he smoked them, to be honest. He said, what's so bad about having 2 different cases instead of 1? He said, it's prosecutor's job. It's your job to try cases. He didn't say this, but it was inferring, like, don't be lazy. So what? He's not dismissing the charges. He basically was like, look, dismissing the charges ain't really up for debate right now. But he's like, what is wrong with severing this? If you adding this in so last minute, it's not really fair. So you basically are hired to be a prosecutor and try cases. You're going to have to try 2 cases. They said it's prosecutor's job to try cases. It's the cops and the investigators' job to come to trials and testify. And he said that he completely disagreed with prosecutors, that it would be a waste of resources because it's their job. It's the investigator's job to testify, and
That's a fact, though. That is your job. That's a fact. I like how you put that. That's a good lawyer for you, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, bro, what you mean? It's a waste of resources not to try. It's your job to prosecute. Don't add on all these charges last minute. Do another trial. That's real. That's real, and I think and that's what got the judge to be like, well, shit. How can you argue with that logic? You know what I'm saying? Like, hold on, you did wake up today to become and was a prosecutor. Do your job. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to do, you know what I'm saying? Because now, if we allow this to happen, now y'all do look bogus. Y'all do look, and you can't, everybody know the Fed's bogus, but once you bluntly bogus like that, you start leaving a message or a bad name, and that shit can snowfall and become something bigger and worse. So I think the judge kind of had to be like, man, nah, that's not right. We kind of got to play it right in this situation. Y'all prosecutors, prosecute him on the next trial. You see what I'm saying?
jury's job to come and be impartial and break down these trials. And he basically said that the first severed trial would be simple. It's the LA murder. He said we need to keep it simple. You can't have all this complicated shit, confusing the juries, taking things out of context, adding these extra Chicago murders that happened before the LA trial. You're putting a Chicago murder on Durk that happened at the start of 2022. You're putting that superseding the murder that happened in August of 2022. It's a previous thing, and really it was all about the LA murder to begin with. So he's basically saying the first trial for the LA murder would have been simple. It should have been simple. And he said that this is really, really interesting, to be honest with you. Even though it was a W for Durk, there were some stuff that made me think, oh, he's not uncooked. Because the judge basically, whenever the judge mentioned the LA murder, and this really, really shocked me, he basically said, and I wrote this down verbatim, when he mentioned this, he said the LA murder, but every time he said it, he would mention something very negative. He would say, the LA murder, this was a terrible threat to the peace and the streets of LA, right? So he said that every time he brought it. He didn't just say the LA murder. He would say this LA murder, which was a horrendous act, a terrible threat to the streets of LA. He said this was, he described it, the murder of Savia Robinson, Lil Pab. He said he didn't just say the murder, he said this.
And if y'all like the content, please hit the like and subscribe button. We on the road to 500. I'm just saying, hit the like and subscribe button.
Disgusting and despicable murder. So when you're hearing that, you're thinking, okay, Durk's taking a W, but at the same time, don't get it twisted. This judge is a tough cookie, and he ain't a Durk fan. He just laying down the law as he sees it. And today was not the prosecutor's day. But if it gets to that trial and that evidence starts looking bad for Durk, he's going to be up against a really tough judge.
Yep.
Literally, he's like, this murder,
that
which,
judge
by the way,
is a
was
down-to-earth
disgusting and despicable. Those are his exact words. That kind of blew my mind. I was thinking, surely he's not allowed to say it. How do we know? Isn't it to the jury to decide it was disgusting and despicable? But apparently not. The judge can say this was disgusting and despicable, heinous crime.
Died.
It threatened the safety of the streets of LA. And I'd always try and remind people that's what this is about. It's not about trying to score points on Durk. I don't like Durk.
No.
At the end of the day,
no. This ain't got nothing to do with that. This got everything to do with you hired somebody, stalked them in a beautiful town and city with children around and families around and wives and husbands all around you, and you went to go try to kill somebody, didn't hit your intended target, and then somebody ends up dead. That's disgusting. That's despicable. This is a high-paying area. Like, it don't go down like that. Now, I know LA got their own hood. Every city got their own hood. But from what the reports were saying, this wasn't a crime-infested area. They did that shit in your good neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny as hell because the motherfuckers who killed Duck, Lil Durk homies that killed Duck, them motherfuckers did the same dumb shit. Smoked the motherfucker downtown Chicago, the dumbest shit you could do, with his cameras everywhere, and you're not doing shit downtown. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You're doing some shit downtown, some rich white boy gonna say, hey, go find them motherfuckers and lock them motherfuckers up. Because when the rich white people say what the fuck they want done, it get done. By Chicago police, New York police, LA police, anywhere. You go do a crime in them environments, believe you're getting caught. Believe you getting caught. If you don't get caught, it was nothing but God. Go sit down in the crib. Don't move. Don't leave. Don't do nothing else. Chill out. Keep it so real with you. For real, for real. And that's the problem. These niggas just crashing out. And errors. See, you crash out so much in the hood and get away with it, you think you can get away with it anywhere. Go to a white neighborhood if you want to and crash out. Go do that shit if you want to. You might make it back home, but you're not going to be home too long. I'm going to keep it so real. And if you are, it was nothing but God. Promise you.
I've been spending a lot of time in LA. I want to feel safe on the streets. I don't want to think that OTF demons are coming to, follow me back to my hotel and find out where I'm at.
Period.
And you know what I mean?
End
Like this, it was a disgusting and despicable crime. And it did threaten the safety in the streets of LA. And they do need to have a speedy trial to get this worked out, so that any killers that feel like it would be a good idea to fly from Chicago to LA to
go to
assassinate
jail.
people think twice again. But anyway, he went on to say, look, jurors understand the assignment of the LA case. They said juror will basically consider Durk's intention to flee. And he brought up a lot of interesting details himself, the judge. Basically said, look, it's part of the LA case, the idea that Durk was basically about to get indicted for it and he tried to flee the country and get on a flight. The judge brought that up and was like, it's easy for the jury to kind of understand the LA murder, understand the attempts to flee. It really should just be self-contained and the jurors should just consider those things. He said that there's simplicity in the severance, and he basically kind of went on to say, well, really, you're all arguing about what you deserve, what Durk wants, speedy trial, what the prosecutors want. And he said what really matters is what Lil Pab's mother would actually want. And he said that he hadn't heard from her yet. And he said it's not fair to delay her justice so that the state can throw on this huge victory.
The fact that he said that, Durk going to jail. I don't know if he's going to go to jail as long as we think he is. But the fact that he just said that, he just told us, the judge just said, this is honestly comes down to Lil Pap's mother. If she can forgive you guys and let you guys walk away, that's one thing. Not saying they're going to go home free if she say that. But if she wants you to go to jail for life, she got every right to feel like that. Her decision is going to influence my decision. That's some real shit. That's some real shit. I think we needed to hear that. I think a lot of these young guys need to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Hey, all right, the person that's going to sentence you or the person who's going to have influence on your sentencing is the killer, is the person you killed's mother. Do your homework. You know what I'm saying? And everybody already know. Ain't nobody finna be like, let him go make music because we all love Lil Durk. I know he killed my son, but man, nobody's saying that. She's sending his ass to jail. Take everything away from that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? She's gonna want the worst for Lil Durk. You know what I'm saying? Deep down inside, even if she don't come out and say that deep down inside, she don't want to see him prosper. She don't want to see Lil Durk raise his kids. She don't want to see Lil Durk have a wife. She don't want to see none of that. Why would she? Why would she? She might not come out and verbally say that, but deep down inside, there's no reason for her to want to see Lil Durk be successful. And you killed my son because he made he laughed a little bit. He made some slick remarks on Twitter and shit after your homie came and was whooping on dude and got his life took. You know, he was just speaking on his side of the story with his people. Did that cost him his whole life? Well, if that cost him his whole life, then shit, then nigga, that should cost you everything you came in with in the game with too. And that's how she gonna play it. So you can't be mad at the judge saying that statement. Man, let's see what the mom gotta say. Cause that's some real shit. That's some real shit.
Extra murder charge. And the judge said at the end of the day, it's all up to him. He's going to take into account Lil Pab's family and what they want to do, not what the prosecutors want to do. The prosecutors want to add this murder on last minute and tack it on and make the whole situation look way worse for Durk and then rush it to the August trial. And it sounded like he wasn't going for it. He wasn't feeling it. Now, while this is all going on, I kind of turned around and then I realized, oh shit, Big Durk's in here. So Durk's father and Durk's mother actually came in a little bit late, but they still came into the courtroom, came and sat in the back. And Big Durk definitely had a little aura to him as well. Not quite Brian Steele level, but he was cool. And I snapped a little sneaky pic of Brian Steele and Durk having a chat afterwards. But basically, the judge kind of went on to say, look, this isn't an issue with the Speedy Trial Act. He kept bringing that up. He's saying it's not about the act. He didn't say this, but it was like, fuck the act. I decide what goes. If I want to listen to that, cool. If I think that something else is going on...
That's the judge. Hey, I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you what the fuck you finna do. All right? This is what's finna happen. He gonna tell everybody. He gonna set the tone. That's the real judge. He ain't just picking on Lil Durk. He picking on a situation. He's going to families, asking families, what would you like? He telling prosecutors, hey, don't make Lil Durk's situation look worse. I know what he did was wrong, but let me handle this shit. Let me make this shit look good. Give me the information. You're not going to throw information on to make him look worse than what it is. Let me make a decision on what happened. I want to see the facts. Stop trying to make this shit look worse. I'm going to ask the family what they want me to do. Like, that's a real judge, and that's what a real judge is going to do. He gonna set the tone in this motherfucker. I'm not on nobody's side. I'm stating the facts. And I'm the same way. If it's the facts that you dead fucking wrong, you're going to jail. You are dead fucking wrong. Like he said, that murder, I love how he said that murder that Jay did in LA was crazy. Period. In the story. And it seems like you guys are starting to get so comfortable with going outside of the hood and bringing that shit everywhere else, and now you got regular people who either left the hood or scared to go to the hood or anything like that, and you just brought that shit to them. You're going to jail. You are going to jail, boy. I'm going to tell you that right now.
I'm going to do it my way. He said that the government should basically agree that they did the superseding indictment. Basically, he made a really good example. He said, look, the government surely would agree if you did your third superseding indictment adding this extra murder on August the 19th.
Right.
The day before the August the 20th trial was set. He said nobody would allow it to go ahead a day later. He said if you dropped this murder on Durk on the day before trial and expected him to still go ahead with this trial with a whole extra murder added with 1 day to look into it, he said it's absurd. It's just it would never fly. Absolutely nobody in their right mind would allow that to happen. And the judge is basically saying, he basically asked, if the superseding indictment, if that third indictment was put forward at such a late date, he basically said it completely would upend the defendant's plans. And he didn't say, oh yeah, I'm going to force you to drop those charges, but he did lean heavily towards severing it. He said, look, if there's 2 trials, and again, he said, if there's 2 trials, the despicable LA murder has to be intertwined with the Vicar charge of Stefan Mack. He kept saying that, the despicable. To be honest, he didn't really say the Chicago murder was despicable. He probably hasn't had time to look into it. But he kept saying this despicable LA murder. It caught me off guard, to be honest with you. It was despicable. I couldn't believe it. And basically, he kind of was asking the prosecutors and going back and forth. Sorry, Mum, getting a dry throat. He was asking the prosecutors and going back and forth about it. And basically saying, if the feds were interested in going after the Chicago case, they should do so on its own merits. But the judge sort of said that he felt like it seemed like they were going after this Chicago Stefan Mack murder case to basically help the LA case. And he made a very, very, when he said this definitely was like, the prosecutor's like, oh, fuck. He basically said, what it sounds like is you're using the Chicago case. He said, you're using the Chicago tail to wag the LA dog. And I thought, ooh, that's very interesting. You heard this phrase before, like, is the dog wagging the tail or is the tail wagging the dog? And it's basically like it just said straight up, like, you're throwing this Chicago case in here to make your LA case stronger. He didn't say that it's a bad case, it's a shit case. He didn't say you got no evidence.
So long story short, man, they severed it, and the judge ain't going for that shit. You know what I'm saying? The judge is going to allow them to do, you're not going to just be able to add on hella murders last minute. He's going to be a fair judge. He's going to do it the right way. So if Lil Durk genuinely gets convicted, if he genuinely has enough evidence on him to go to jail, the judge is going to send him to jail. However, if it shows that Lil Durk is innocent, or he gets a loophole, and on paperwork and everything, it shows that his part is innocent, seems like the judge is going to let Lil Durk walk. But I want to hear y'all opinion. I want to hear y'all comments. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to comment on the video. Thank you for tuning in to Evan Seals TV. I do appreciate it. Until next time.